The stars above Earth were cold, and indifferent to night, the sky turned red. Captain Elias Rourke watched from the shattered remains of the mountain observatory as the alien dreadnought breached the stratosphere. It wasn't silent. Nothing that big could be, but the hum it made was more vibration than sound, something that crawled inside your bones and rattled your thoughts. He gritted his teeth and adjusted the burn-scorched collar of his tactical suit. The air still reeked of ozone and charred metal. His comms had gone dead an hour ago, his team even longer. He was the last one. The extraction point was gone, swallowed by the first plasma blast. What remained of Earth's military response was scattered. Resistance fighters, survivors, and broken chain-of-command whispers carried on static channels. The Sharnak didn't just come for territory. They came to dominate, to erase. Rourke had seen it in their eyes when his recon team made contact. Cold, curious, superior. He limped through the debris, favoring his left leg, blood drying where shrapnel had torn through his thigh. His sidearm was down to one magazine. No backup, no plan, but he kept moving, instinct dragging him toward the dark woods bordering the cliffside. If he could vanish into the tree-line, he might find shelter, maybe even regroup with whoever was left. He didn't make it. They dropped from the sky like shadows. No engines, no warning. One moment he was alone. The next he was staring at 6 armored figures, their green, insectoid helmets reflecting the crimson-tinged moonlight. The lead one raised a rifle the length of Rourke's torso, but didn't fire. They weren't here to kill. Rourke raised his hand slowly, spine straight despite the pain. "You boys always greet company like this?" he asked, voice raw. The aliens didn't respond. One of them moved forward, faster than Rourke could react. A jolt of electricity hit his chest, and the world vanished in a flash of white. He woke on cold metal, pain blooming across every nerve. The chamber pulsed with low light, the walls alive with technology that seemed grown more than built. Restraints bound his arms and legs. Hovering spheres with blinking eyes floated near the ceiling, watching, recording. The air smelled sterile, but there was something else beneath it, like copper and ozone, death and science. He heard footsteps, sharp, rhythmic, purposeful. Then he saw it. The creature that entered had the same green skin as the others, but this one wore no helmet. Its eyes, 8 of them, burned bright emerald, each blinking independently. Its face was elongated, almost regal, with a crown of spiked ridges that shimmered with bioluminescence. It carried itself like a monarch or a warlord. Human, it said, voice filtered through an odd translator that shaped its syllables into razor-sharp clarity. "You're Elias Rourke. Soldier. Leader. Killer." Rourke gave a half-smile. Blood caked at the corner of his mouth. "Nice resume. You the welcoming committee?" The alien tilted its head, eyes narrowing. "I am General Kazir of the Sharnak Dominion. You are an anomaly. Your resistance exceeded projections. Your capture was prioritized." "Well," Rourke said, "I'm flattered." Kazir stepped closer, placing a clawed hand beneath Rourke's chin, lifting it just enough to study his face. The gesture was almost gentle, almost. Rourke didn't flinch, though every muscle in his body screamed for relief. "Why do you persist?" Kazir asked, tone genuinely curious. "Your species is inferior, disorganized, prone to emotional instability, and yet you survive. Because," Rourke said through clenched teeth, "you invaded the wrong goddamn planet." Kazir's eyes glowed a fraction brighter. It said nothing for a long moment, then turned its back. "We shall see what remains of your defiance in time." The restraints released. Rourke collapsed to the floor, barely catching himself with trembling arms. He was too weak to stand, but not so weak he didn't notice the unsubtle threat. Kazir walked away without looking back. The days, or whatever passed for days on the Sharnak vessel, blurred into each other. The cell changed shape constantly, walls shifting like breathing lungs. There was no silence, only the low thrum of alien machinery and the occasional murmur of inhuman voices. Rourke was fed, barely, and examined regularly by floating machines that prodded and scanned, and sometimes whispered in a language that grated like broken glass. But he stayed sharp. He remembered Kazir's words. The curiosity, The need to understand. That was the general's weakness. He didn't just want to break Rourke. He wanted to know him. So Rourke gave him what he wanted. Pieces. Stories. Half-truths laced with subtle misdirections. A chess game without a board, played one question at a time. He gave them just enough to keep them asking. Kazir returned often, always alone. Sometimes with questions, sometimes just to watch. "You don't fear death," the alien said one cycle, almost disapprovingly. "Fear's a luxury I left on Earth," Rourke replied, arms crossed to spite his bruised ribs. "Your world is ash. Your kind are scattered. Hope is irrational." "Yeah, well, irrational's kind of our thing." Kazir stared at him, those many eyes narrowing in contemplative silence. And then he laughed. It wasn't a sound Rourke expected, dry and clicking, like gears grinding inside a predator's skull. It didn't sound amused. It sounded impressed. "You are different," Kazir said. "Dangerous. You will be studied." "You can study my ass," Rourke muttered, but Kazir was already walking away. That night, Rourke found a weakness in the wall seam. Small, hidden, just a sliver of imperfection. But it was something. He didn't know how much time he had left. But he knew one thing. Kazir had picked the wrong human. Rourke counted the days by the tightening ache in his ribs and the growing numbness in his hands. Sleep came in short bursts, stolen when the alien lights dimmed and the soft hum of surveillance faded to a near-silent lull. He never truly rested. The general's words echoed through his mind at night. "You will be studied." And yet, they hadn't broken him. Not yet. Kazir returned again, just as Rourke knew he would. The alien had a need he couldn't conceal. Something obsessive in the way his eyes lingered too long, how his questions dug deeper with every visit. Rourke saw it for what it was. A hunter who had expected a clean kill, now transfixed by prey that refused to die. "You are not compliant," Kazir observed without preamble. "Most species submit under neural conditioning. You do not." "Maybe your toys are broken," Rourke said, leaning back against the wall. "Or maybe humans are just wired differently." Kazir studied him, silent. The kind of silence that pressed into your ears, heavy and deliberate. Then he turned, signaling to the spherical drone that hovered near the ceiling. It whirred to life, then extended something, a glimmering needle no larger than a thorn. "We'll test that theory." The pain was sharp, instantaneous. Rourke didn't scream. He'd made a decision early on. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction. But it wasn't just about resistance for its own sake. He'd noticed things. The timing of the guards. The brief moments between shifts. The way the drones blinked in a repeating sequence, left to right, then pause. Patterns. Weaknesses. Each session was brutal, but he treated them like intel runs. Every scar was a map. Every injection, a note. Kazir believed he was breaking a soldier. But Rourke was studying a general. "You must understand," Kazir said one day, pacing as he often did when particularly disturbed. "You are not unique because of strength. It is something else. A friction. A refusal. What causes it?" Rourke laughed, dry and cracked. "You ever try to tame fire with your bare hands?" Kazir didn't respond. He stood still for several moments, then gestured. 2 guards entered, dragging in another prisoner. Human, female, barely conscious, her face streaked with blood and grime. Rourke's stomach dropped. She was from the Southern Division, uniform markings still half visible beneath alien restraints. Kazir turned to him, all 8 eyes gleaming. "Perhaps proximity to your kind will change your tone." They left her in the adjacent cell, separated by an energy barrier. Rourke pressed his fingers to the transparent wall. "Hey," he said quietly. "You awake?" Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Then she blinked and locked onto him. "Captain Rourke." Her voice was raw. Disbelief threaded through pain. "They said you were dead." "Not yet," he muttered. "What's your name?" "Sergeant Lena Voss," she replied. "I was at Meridian Base. We held as long as we could. Then the sky opened. Yeah, that's their signature move." Days passed, and Voss grew stronger. They talked, softly, carefully. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was strategy. Between them, A plan began to take shape. Rourke had knowledge of the ship's layout, routines, personnel. Voss remembered an access breach they discovered during an earlier prisoner transfer. Together, they mapped out escape routes with nothing but words and scraped floor patterns. It was fragile, incomplete, but it was something. Kazir returned, and this time, he didn't come alone. A tall, robed Sharnak female followed behind. Her features etched with the same alien elegance, but colder somehow. She spoke in clipped tones, translated into perfect syntax. "You have delayed long enough," she said. "The High Chamber demands results. We grow impatient with your fascination." Kazir didn't flinch. "This one is worth the time. He defies known psychological structure. I believe he holds keys to understanding human warfare." The female turned to Rourke. "You will be dissected if progress is not made. Your identity is not protection." "Great pep talk," Rourke muttered. They left soon after. Kazir looked back once, unreadable. Later that night, Voss whispered through the barrier, "He's slipping. I saw it. That female scared him." Rourke nodded. "Which means we've got a window." It came sooner than expected. A system glitch, real or orchestrated, they never knew. Shut down secondary containment fields for 30 seconds. Long enough for Rourke to wedge a stolen metal shard into the wall seam he'd been testing for weeks. The panel hissed and slid, revealing a narrow crawl space thick with wires and heat. He pulled Voss through as alarms started screaming in a language he didn't need to understand. They ran. The ship's corridors twisted like a labyrinth. Sirens pulsed in and out of sync, disorienting. Footsteps echoed, too many to track. But Rourke remembered the paths, remembered the vents and conduit tunnels that weren't built for guards to follow. Twice, they narrowly escaped detection, ducking behind slamming doors or crawling through access hatches. Voss was slowing, her earlier wounds reopening. Rourke didn't hesitate. He pulled her arm over his shoulder, half carried her down a dimly lit corridor. "We're close," he said. "Storage bay ahead. If we can get to the maintenance pods, we can—" A blast threw them against the wall. Rourke's ears rang. He opened his eyes to see Kazir standing over them, flanked by armored guards. The general's expression was unreadable, but his voice betrayed something sharp. "I was beginning to believe you were exceptional, and now you throw it away on a futile escape." Rourke pulled himself up, shielding Voss behind him. "You're not angry we escaped. You're angry we made you look human. Obsessive. Emotional." Kazir stepped forward, and for the first time his hand trembled. "Barely. I could have learned from you," he said. "We could have reshaped the galaxy together." Rourke grinned, bloody and unbowed. "You don't learn from fire, Kazir. You run from it." The moment stretched. Then Kazir raised his hand. "Detain them." A stunned blast hit Rourke square in the chest. Darkness took him, but as it did, he smiled. He had seen it, plain as day. Kazir was afraid. Pain brought Rourke back to consciousness. It wasn't sharp this time. It was deep, like a hot iron pressing the marrow of his bones, a slow, humming throb that refused to fade. He opened his eyes to a different room, no longer the organic prison of his former cell, but something more austere. A laboratory. Cold light pooled from overhead fixtures, revealing gleaming surgical tools and alien monitors displaying incomprehensible biosignatures. Voss was nowhere to be seen. His limbs were restrained, but not tightly. Not enough to cause damage. Just enough to remind him they didn't need brute force anymore. They thought they had already won. A door hissed open. Kazir entered alone, flanked by the same silence that always preceded him. But something had changed. He moved slower, as if the weight of failure had finally pressed itself across his shoulders. His skin, normally vibrant with green iridescence, was dulled, and his crown of bioluminescent ridges dimmed. "You risked everything," Kazir said, "to escape. For what? You could have had meaning here. You could have mattered." Rourke scoffed. "You really don't get us, do you? You think survival is the prize. But it's not. It's what we do with it." Kazir approached, his gaze studying Rourke like a relic under glass. "You remind me of the Akron, a species we encountered long ago. Defiant, resistant, beautiful in a way. We destroyed them." "Yeah," Rourke said, You keep comparing us to dead civilizations. Funny thing is, we're still here. The alien's expression darkened. You are still here because I allow it. Rourke leaned forward against his restraints, every word sharp enough to bleed. No, I'm here because you're afraid to end it. Because ending me means ending the game. And you need this game, Kazir. You need to understand what makes us keep fighting. You want to believe it's something you can measure, isolate, but you never will. Kazir's hand clenched. I will. Silence followed, heavy and absolute. But then the door hissed open again, and this time Voss was thrown inside. She stumbled, half limping, blood drying on her temple. Her eyes found Rourke's immediately. She wasn't broken, battered, yes, but fire still burned in her. Rourke's heart twisted, not from fear, but from fury. Kazir turned toward her. She refused to answer questions. We extracted what we could, but the data was fragmented, useless. You've infected your kind with your stubbornness. Rourke's voice dropped, cold and cutting. You think stubbornness is a disease, but it's the cure. He saw again just a flicker in Kazir's face. That twitch of doubt, that fracture in the God complex. The general stepped back. Prepare him. He ordered machines. Mechanical arms lower from the ceiling, each ending in different tools. Scalpels, probes, needles that glowed with fluorescent venom. Rourke's breathing slowed. He wasn't afraid of pain. He was afraid of dying without doing what he came here to do. But then something unexpected happened. Voss moved, not to flee, but toward the console. One of the guards, distracted by the machinery's whirring, turned half a second too late. She was on him like a strike of lightning, grabbing his weapon with both hands and jamming the barrel into the base of his neck. Alien blood sprayed, and she dropped him before he hit the floor. Chaos erupted. The machine stuttered, thrown into emergency protocol. The second guard turned, but Rourke was already shifting, using the loosened restraints to twist just far enough to trip the alien's legs as he advanced. He hit the ground, and Voss shot him twice, clean, surgical blasts. The restraints on Rourke snapped, open in response to the override. Kazir stared, motionless. You had a chance, he said softly. You could have transcended your limits. Funny, Rourke growled, gripping the fallen rifle. I'm just getting started. Kazir moved faster than expected. His claws lashed out, slicing the weapon in half. Rourke rolled back, grabbing a fallen blade from the floor, an alien instrument meant for dissection, but sharp all the same. They circled, predator and prey, roles shifting with every breath. You can't win, Kazir said, striking out. I don't have to win, Rourke replied, parrying. I just have to make sure you lose. The fight was brutal, unrelenting. Kazir was faster, but Rourke was meaner. Every strike calculated to maim, every block an act of survival honed by years of war. Voss joined the fray from the side, coordinating without a word. They moved like soldiers who had shared trenches, foxholes, and last stands. There was no grace, only desperation. Finally, Kazir faltered. Voss landed a blow to his side, distracted him just long enough for Rourke to drive the blade upward beneath the ribs, where even alien anatomy had vulnerable spots. Kazir gasped, those 8 emerald eyes flickering erratically. You don't understand what you've done. Rourke stepped closer, voice low. No, you don't understand what you started. The general collapsed. Rourke didn't wait. He and Voss grabbed the fallen weapons and stormed the control panels, bypassing security protocols with stolen credentials. Sirens screamed as systems failed. Cell doors across the vessel opened with hissing release, and the sound of chaos rippled through the corridors like wildfire. You think this will work? Voss asked, breathless. No, Rourke said. I know it will. He turned to the intercom system and activated it. All human prisoners, he said, voice echoing across the ship. This is Captain Elias Rourke. Your cages are open. Your captors are bleeding. It's time to remind them what a mistake it was to come here. In the distance, the sound of Uprising began, and Rourke smiled through bloodied teeth. The storm was just beginning. The ship shook violently as internal blasts ripped through the corridors. Smoke coiled through vents like writhing phantoms, and distant screams, some human, others not, echoed in chaotic harmony. Rourke ducked behind a bulkhead as a burst of plasma fire sprayed across the intersection. Voss covered him from behind, firing clean shots that dropped 2 more Sharnak enforcers before they could react. 2 more decks to the launch bay, she called over the commotion. Rourke nodded. We keep moving, no matter what. All around them, the uprising spread like wildfire. Prisoners, once silent and broken, now surged to the alien vessel with raw fury. Armed with salvage weapons, sharpened debris, or nothing but bare fists, they overwhelmed guards by sheer will and rage. Rourke had seen riots before. This wasn't that. This was revolution. They advanced room by room, turning every corridor into a battlefield. Voss moved like a phantom, precise, merciless. Rourke led by presence alone, his voice a rallying cry in the dark. This is our ship now. Push forward. No retreat, but resistance stiffened the closer they got to the command sector. The Sharnak weren't used to desperation. Now, they wielded it with cornered animal cruelty. Automated turrets came online. Drones darkened the ceilings like flocks of steel crows. Alien war beasts were released from stasis pods, their howls drowning out the alarms. Rourke ducked beneath a low-flying drone and hurled a stolen ion grenade into a charging pack of guards. The explosion painted the walls in jagged blue light and screams. We're not going to reach the bay at this rate, Voss panted. We'll get boxed in. Then we change the plan, Rourke said. He pivoted toward the central command tower instead. They came for a specimen, he said. They're going to leave with a lesson. She didn't ask for an explanation. She simply followed. The tower loomed like a monolith of alien arrogance. Encased in reinforced obsidian alloy, it had been designed as an impenetrable fortress. Overkill for a species who believed themselves gods. The humans breached it in 12 minutes. Rourke led the charge. Explosives planted from the armory ripped open the lower levels. A dozen freed prisoners, engineers, commandos, even a linguist who'd fashioned weapons from surgical tools, fought their way through the final blast doors. Inside, chaos. The bridge was pure panic. Sharnak officers scrambled to reroute systems, screaming at each other in fragmented syllables. Tactical displays flickered with warning glyphs. The rebellion had torn through every safeguard they believed infallible. Rourke stepped into their sanctum, soaked in soot and blood, and lifted a pulse rifle. Stand down, he said. Or don't. I honestly don't care anymore. A few tried to resist. They didn't last long. When it was over, he moved to the primary command terminal and stared at the interface. It pulsed with alien complexity, strange runes and shifting holographics. Voss joined him, wiping a smear of blood from her face. Think you can work it? Don't need to, he replied. Just need to break it. He activated a command override, dragging memories of intercepted protocols and Kazir's voice prints from deep recall. The ship stuttered, then began rerouting energy into auxiliary systems. What are you doing? Voss asked, suddenly wary. Sending a message. He opened a frequency to the Sharnak fleet. They were out there, mass in orbit, watching, waiting, probably debating whether to erase the entire vessel and call it a failed experiment. Rourke leaned into the console, face lit by the pale glow of their language. This is Captain Elias Rourke of Earth. Your general is dead. Your ship is ours. You wanted to know what makes us special? Why we fight? Why we never break? He paused, voice hardening. It's simple. We don't accept the world as it is. We shape it, even if it kills us. He terminated the signal. There was no response from the fleet, only silence. And then a quiet hum as escape protocols activated. The launch bays are unlocking, Voss whispered. They're letting us go. They want us to leave, Rourke said. They think they're cutting their losses. She looked at him. What do you think? I think, he said, they've made a bigger mistake than coming here in the first place. They guided the survivors, 50, maybe 60 in total, to the bays. Most were wounded. All were changed. No one joked. No one cheered. They were soldiers now, every one of them, reborn in the crucible of captivity and revolt. Rourke and Voss were the last aboard the final vessel. As the doors closed, he looked back at the dark corridor. the echo of their war etched into every wall. You think they'll follow us? Voss asked. He gave a slow nod. Eventually. Then what? He looked out at the stars as they burst into motion. Then we remind them, he said, one world at a time. The ship leapt into hyperspace. Behind them, the broken corpse of the alien flagship drifted in orbit, a monument to the failure of arrogance. Ahead, Earth awaited. And beyond that, the galaxy, still burning, still watching, still waiting to learn what happens when you pick the wrong human